so many of them, both in Haiti and Uganda, have asked, what do I have to study to come back and work for you? And, I really feel like that, who better could you have work for you than someone who's come up and through the program and been supported by the program. And so I've told them, you can study anything you want because we have so many needs, right. and we're committed to supporting you as long as you want to go to school. And it's really been an evolution where I could not have predicted where it is now, but we're doing the best we can to provide for the needs that are in front of us.
Hi, I'm Chris LeBrun, your host of the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. As someone who's never been afraid of dreaming big and going for it all, I often find myself with a lot on my plate. I'm a husband and father, a nonprofit fundraiser, and an entrepreneur. What I've realized is my view of productivity was pretty toxic. After decades of believing that in order to do more, you had to work harder, I began to see productivity as this beautiful thing. Holistic productivity is the idea that you can accomplish your professional, personal, and purpose-driven goals in a healthy way, and doing so will make you happier and more fulfilled. Join me each week as we break down myths about productivity, share practical tips for maximizing your time, energy, and focus, and hear from others about their productivity journey. This is the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. Thank you so much for being here for this episode of the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. My name is Chris LeBrun. I'm the host. I'm a productivity coach, and I am just so glad that you are here. Everything that we do, every decision that we make, no matter how big or small, affects our future in some way, shape, or form. Some decisions are big, some decisions are small. They have different size of impact. But I believe everything that we do, every decision we make, either takes us further away from our goal or brings us closer to it. And I certainly hope that listening to this podcast is bringing you closer to the goals that matter most in your life. Again, I do this. This is all part of my goal to help you dream big, plan smart, and live fully. So again, thank you so much for being here. We've got a fantastic guest for you today. It's somebody that I have worked with in the past. We're going to talk about what she is doing now. My guest today is Lauren Lombard. Lauren is a quiet but mighty force in the world of international development. She has spent the last 15 years working in humanitarian aid and international development, but her heart for service really began at a much younger age. After raising money and helping build an orphanage in Zimbabwe at the age of 16. While still a teenager, she spent a year as an assistant house mother in a Romanian orphanage. Lauren's professional experience covers almost every role associated with international development and nonprofits, including marketing, communication, fundraising, and leadership. During the pandemic, she launched a nonprofit food truck in the Minneapolis area, serving meals to people who were struggling. In 2021, she founded Educare Now, a nonprofit serving children in Haiti. And in 2022, Educare expanded into Uganda, and the next year, 2023, they expanded again into Tanzania. Lauren is currently the Vice President of Marketing and Communication for Caption, a company that creates inclusive technology for museum exhibits. Lauren's drive to make an impact in her professional, personal, and purpose-driven areas of life is an inspiring testament to what we can do when we follow our dreams. Lauren, it is so good to see you again. I loved talking just a little bit before we started the show. And, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
It's wonderful to be here. It's been a long time, and it's great to reconnect with you.
Has been a minute. We worked together for about 3 years, I think, 3.5 years, something like that, at an international NGO. And, that was, again, it's been a number of years. I always joke that no one grows up wanting to go into fundraising, but reading your bio, maybe you actually did. I don't know. At what age did you know that you wanted to go into nonprofit work, or what was that like in those early years?
I don't think I had a clear vision for most of my growing up years and even into college. I was looking at various different directions, and I knew that I wanted it to center around service, and I didn't really know what that looked like. And it was not really until I graduated that I realized that I had a real passion for international development and for helping communities that were rebuilding from disaster and that needed support in education and livelihoods in a variety of different ways. And I really wanted to be part of that solution. And my first job was really in fundraising. And I fell into that because I had already had a lot of experience in fundraising, not having looked for it, but just finding ways to help support the things that I was doing. And then that over the years kind of amassed some experience even before I had graduated from college. And so then I found myself in a role that felt very natural, and like all these different areas of my life kind of came together in the same place.
We're going to talk more about all of the different things that you're involved in, but you've got a lot going on. In addition to your C-suite role, you're running a nonprofit that works in 3 different countries. How do you stay organized? How do you structure your day? How are you staying on top of it all?
That's challenging because I don't feel like I'm staying on top of it all. I am juggling a lot of things, and it's challenging to constantly be switching tracks and, trying to keep everything going. The nonprofit work I'm doing is on the side, and it's something I'm very passionate about, but requires me to wear a lot of hats. And so that's been a challenge for me to, figure out how do I best organize everything, and where do I prioritize things as they're constantly shifting. And I can't say that I have it all perfect at all, but
I don't think anybody does.
But one of the things that I have really valued is just writing things down, and then from there, figuring out what the priorities are. I know that's something you talk about a lot, is write down everything and then figure out, what your goals are and what the priorities are. And that does help. And, with advancing technology and having the ability to record things that I need to remember later. And, all of that has been helpful as things have grown too. It's a process. It's an evolution, but we're making it work. So
I have a love-hate relationship with technology because I absolutely love writing things down, but the technology has things that, your paper can't do, right?
It makes things easier in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it can't set an alert or reminder. It can't do repeating things. So I feel that tension, of like, I want the tech, but I love the paper. So, I think I'm going to do an episode someday just on that topic, kind of looking at the pros and cons of all of that. But yeah, it's, I think we just grab onto whatever we can, right? And that's helpful. Talk about your role at Caption. I know it's a new role there, but what are some of the things that the company does, and how do you support them in your role there?
So the company is technology for museums. It originally was something that was a solution for the founder who has low vision, and he has a background in tech and felt like this was something he could solve. And then it has now evolved into something that translates and provides back-end analytics for the museums. And it's something that has the capacity to really enhance every user's experience. And so we're shifting from it being framed as more of an accessibility tool to something that helps the museums connect with their audience better and help improve that experience, as well as give them more information about who it is that's visiting and how they're navigating the space as well. So it's basically like enhanced QR code, that it's NFC technology. So it's like radio frequency, and it pulls up the information about the art on your smartphone, and it pulls it up in whatever language you have it set to if you have the app. And it also is something you can take with you, that when you go home, or if you need to sit down somewhere else, you can read the content or revisit the content. and it allows for more than what would be on the walls. So not only is it in any language that you need, it allows for photos and videos and other information to be embedded into that, and gives a lot more context to who the artist is and what is also similar art that's from that time period, or anything that you want to put in it.
Yeah.
And we're really starting with art. It could be applied in so many different ways, but we really want to see it succeed in this space and grow. So we're currently in 8 museums. Currently in 8 museums here in the Twin Cities area. And we just signed a pilot for the largest museum in the state. And I'm hopeful that that will turn into a full museum contract come January. But we're small, we're growing. And my role with them is in marketing. I got connected with them by chance. I was in a museum that they had just rolled out, and I really loved what they were doing. And next thing I know, I was asked to help spearhead their marketing. Yeah. And we're a small team. It's still, still very much young and growing, but it's exciting to be part of. And I love building things. So that's part of what's been fun for me.
No, and I think, being there at that ground floor, what an amazing opportunity. That's where the excitement is, to get to build and to shape. I love the accessibility portion of it, just because I know that there's a need for that. But I think I love even more in some ways that I can be served by that as well. One of the challenges I have in museums is you want to look at everything and you want to read everything. But if you're on a time schedule, this is kind of great that I can dig in a little bit later afterwards. I love that. And the idea that maybe someday I could take the Mona Lisa home with me, right? That would be,
yeah.
That would be incredible. No, I love that. And what a neat thing to do and to be able to grow.
Yeah. We were recently talking about the Louvre because the staff has all been revolting from the lack of support, and we're like, if our technology was there, we could help reduce the need for all the staff that's kind of being spread thin right now. But I also really love supporting accessibility, and it's interesting to see how it requires it to have a broader application for it to have as much of an impact for the accessibility community. And one of the initial conversations I had with the team was around this, because there have been many solutions that people come up with for accessibility, but it's not until it has a broader adoption. Like Kizik's shoes, for instance, they're the shoes that you can step into, and it was initially something that could really help, and something that the first thing I thought of was people who have cerebral palsy or, have a limited ability to put on their shoes. It wasn't until it was promoted for lazy people, and you don't have to stop and tie your shoes, and you don't have to, bend over. And then it, everyone saw a need for it, and it had the, more people buying it, and they were able to make it more cost effective. So sometimes,
thank goodness for lazy people.
Sometimes that is what it takes, but I love seeing ways that it helps people with various abilities, and this helps people with, English is not their first language, and people with mobility issues. But I really see it as something that enhances everyone's experience. And so that, I think, is something that the museum can get behind. And it's not just checking a box of like, we did something for accessibility, but it's something that can benefit everybody.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we're in the middle of the pandemic, and you say, hey, you know what I should do? I should start a food truck. Have you ever had a food truck before? I think you're a good cook. I think I remember that, but have you ever done anything in terms of massive food truck service scale type of stuff?
Not at all. I have very limited experience with food. I've had, some small interactions here and there with like a food truck or other people working food trucks and stuff like that, but not like I was in charge of anything. And with so much in my life, I feel like I was not headed in this direction, and it seems like the next right step. And I had friends that had run a restaurant here locally, and we had been talking about ways that we could help support the needs in the area that were directly impacted and resulting from the pandemic. And the next thing you know, we started an organization, and it got fast tracked because it was pandemic relief. And within 2 weeks, I think we had our nonprofit status, which I've been through that process multiple times. And so I know that that is not normal. And we got it just in time to apply for some funding, that was some grant money that was available. And then that helped us launch. And next thing you know, we had hired like 12 people to help run the kitchen. We had a kitchen we were renting, and then the food truck. We were serving out of everyday hot meals and delivering food to families that couldn't come to the truck. And we were in different neighborhoods every day and trying to, reach all of the people that needed it most. And yeah, it was a wild ride. We were learning as we went, and with so many things in my life, I feel like we're building the plane as we're flying it. But it was great. I was actually just talking to someone the other day who said, the pandemic was amazing. I was able to be home and, all this stuff. And I was just like, I have no idea what you're talking about, because I never once was home during the pandemic. I was out in the communities with essential workers and essential services, and working directly with some clients that needed direct support. And it was just never once was I at home. But it's definitely kept me connected to what the needs were in the community. And I love innovation and problem solving, and healthy food is something that is always a problem, not just during the pandemic. And so this allowed us to be able to serve some of these families that really needed it. And it was fun, but very unexpected. I was not headed in that direction.
I mean, and our church got involved here in the Maryland area of being a distribution center and coordinating food distributions. And we had thousands of people coming through each week to collect food. What I was amazed by, and you mentioned it just now, is even after sort of the worst part of the pandemic was over, quote unquote, there was still a huge need for people coming through week after week. And something that I thought was going to be, well, we all sort of thought this with the pandemic in general, but I mean, the food distribution specifically, I thought was going to be a fairly short-lived thing, went on for a long period. So how long did you guys end up running the food truck in total?
We ran it for 2 years, and then we donated the truck to another organization that is doing similar work. And I had, in that period of time, had started another nonprofit, and it really needed more of my focus. And so we ended up shutting down the work we were doing with food, but the legacy lives on with another organization, and the truck is with them.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah.
That's great. Let's talk about Educare Now, because that's the other nonprofit that you have started. That came from, I think, your previous interactions with Haiti and just a love for that country. Tell me about that.
So my first time visiting Haiti was after the earthquake in 2010. So 15 years ago. I have a background in disaster response, and I had been looking for a job, and the disaster hit, and I felt like I wanted to do something to support. And one of my friends was going down to do some filming, and she's like, you can come with me, and you can support. And I said, well, if I'm going down, I want to stay for longer. And I ended up connecting with an organization that asked me to stay on and help coordinate teams coming in to do disaster response and medical work and other things. And so I ended up staying down there for 2 months, that initial trip. And it just had a real impact on me. It was the first post-disaster situation I'd been in, and there was so much need. And I became really, really good friends with some of the people that lived there, there was a team of 30 volunteers, individuals that created a team that would show up every day and volunteer to translate for the medical teams and for the food distribution, all the different things we had going on. And they were students in the area whose schools had been destroyed, and they were showing up every day to see what they could do to support. And we became friends. And one of those friends, his name is Leo, he ended up getting sponsored to come to the US and go to college, and then went back. And really, initially, we had started doing some small things. There was 3 of us that had started an organization locally that was doing disaster response training and community surveys to figure out what are the needs in the communities and how can we better support them. But it was very minimal, and I was very, very busy. I ended up, right after I got back, getting this job that took all of my focus, and I was traveling all over the place. And so it became challenging for me to really feel like I could support the work that they wanted to do in a meaningful way. But I still very much cared about it, and I had told them that I would help advise. I could be on the board. I could, help with things, but I couldn't be as directly involved. And so that eked along for a while. And then after Leo returned to Haiti, he just had this renewed desire to really do something. And education had been what had opened doors for him. And the fact that he spoke several languages, and the fact that he was able to, support in different ways, he felt like education was something that he really wanted to focus on. And I felt like I needed to be more involved for this to be a success. And so finally, after, kind of some debate, we ended up launching that at the end of 2020. And it was something that we didn't have any funding for. And so we were trying to figure out, what can we do with no funding? And we decided to do tutoring for students that were taking their national exams. Every 3 years, students in Haiti take national exams. And if they can place better on the exams, they have more opportunities for what schools they go to and have scholarships that are available and things like that. And so we felt like this was one small way with no money that we can help boost their opportunities. And we took underachieving students that had a lot of promise, but didn't have the funding for school, or, just different hardships at home. And those students ended up getting the top scores on the national exams, and they became the top students in their classes. Wow. And the next year, and every year since then, all of the students in our program have the top scores in their classes, which is not something we require for them to, be super high achieving. We do require them to keep their grades up and to apply themselves. But we also wanted this to have a leadership track, because we feel like so many of the challenges that we see worldwide are due to lack of leadership. And we want our students to help impact change for the long term. And so to be part of the program, the students have to problem solve needs in their community. They have to mentor kids that are younger than them. They have to do community service, and they have to keep their grades up. And the students have been so motivated, and it's just been really amazing to kind of see how things have evolved, because again, we had an idea of something we wanted to do. The original dream that we've talked about ever since 2010 was building this state-of-the-art science and technology complex in Haiti. Because nothing like it exists. And most of the schools in the country don't have science labs, computer labs, libraries, things that are essential for a complete education. And so we felt like if we could build a center that all of those schools could access, our science labs and libraries, which has now evolved into also robotics labs and innovation labs and other things that we want to do. This is still a dream, but that was kind of what started it all, was this dream of something to support education. And then it's just kind of taken on a life of its own, and it's gone places that we didn't envision. And it has been really exciting to kind of see that evolve.
Yeah, for me, when I heard about the STEM aspect of it, that's not what you typically think in terms of the education that an NGO is providing in a developing country, right? I mean, it's more usually the basics. But I love that you are kind of going beyond that because, STEM brings in so much of the logic and the reasoning and the decision making. And I think that is, missing in a lot of even US programs. And so I love that you're doing that. And what has that program looked like? What is the success of that program been? Let's pause here for a quick break. We'll be right back. This episode is sponsored by Efficient.app. Big shout out to Alex and Andra from Efficient.app for sponsoring the Holistic Productivity Podcast from the very beginning. We love that. When you are looking for new software, Efficient.app is the place to go. They have already done all the research for you, which saves you the headache of doing a trial of every single app you want to look at. They offer hundreds of product reviews and comparison videos that are informative and fun to watch. Want to hear how Motion stacks up against Monday.com or Asana or ClickUp? They have a review for that. Here's what I love. They promise no BS software reviews. They tell you exactly what they love and what they don't love. And best of all, they have negotiated special deals, discounts, or even extended trial periods for a bunch of different products. If you're going to look for software, do yourself a favor and let Efficient.app do the work for you. Click on the link in the show notes. That's the best way to get there because you'll let them know that you appreciate them sponsoring the Holistic Productivity Podcast as well. Check them out, Efficient.app. The link in the show notes. You won't regret it.
So again, that was something, someone donated a used robotics kit at the end of about the time we were starting. So the beginning of 2021. And we just threw the kids into a crash course of learning how to use this while we're also learning how to use it ourselves because we didn't have a background in robotics. 2 months into that program, threw them into a competition. So we receive this used robotics kit, we throw them into a competition, and they're so green. And they had not been in a spelling bee or in anything. They didn't know how to present themselves. And so they lost points on two main areas. One, their presentation skills, which were two screens because the judges were remote during the pandemic, which is already hard. And two, the kit we had was old and couldn't be programmed to do some of the commands fast enough that they needed. And they still placed fourth in the competition. Wow. And so we really felt like, okay, if after very minimal training and poor technology in equipment, they really have a chance to win this. And so we planned for that whole next year. If they win, they are invited to the international competition in Houston. And if they were to, that's just a month between the Haiti competition and the US competition. And it's not enough time to try to figure things out after they win. Right. So we have to plan for them to win and have their passports ready and have their immunizations and have their visas and everything. Wow. And we got the community involved. It has been a community effort from the beginning. The community did a fundraiser with food. We got the parents on a payment plan, $10 a month to pay for their passports. We got their immunizations, and they came into that next competition with a lot more preparedness. That someone had donated a new robotics kit. They had a year to train with it, and they completely knocked it out of the park. Like it was they won by a landslide. And so we were like, okay, we think they can do this, but it's up to them. Like we're not driving this at all. It's been them running headlong into every opportunity that's put in front of them. Yeah. We were not able to go to Houston because we were not able to get visas, and now it's completely off the table. And so we've been on a waiting list for 3 years now to get those visas, and we paid for them and everything, but it's just been a very difficult situation. Yeah. So our organization has also, evolved as the situation around us has evolved. And in 2021, July of 2021, the president was assassinated. In August of 2021, there was a devastating earthquake in the south of the country. And because of all the instability in the country due to the shifting government issues and the gangs taking over and all of that, a lot of the organizations that were present and on the ground had policies in place that prevented them from responding to disasters. And we're seeing, our program is in the South, and we're seeing, the devastation all around us. And also we met and started this whole thing in a disaster. And so we weren't planning to do anything medical or disaster related, but we were also small enough and willing to respond under those conditions. And so we organized a team mostly made up of Haitians, doctors, nurses, medical professionals, medical students, and a few Marines that came in and joined us. And we spent 2 months doing medical clinics up and down the mountain, hiking up and down the mountains, and providing medical care. And we carefully coordinated all of our efforts with everyone who was the organizing bodies. We took coordinates of all the locations. We coordinated with the U.S. Coast Guard for airlifts for some of the patients that were really critical condition. And some of these patients should not have survived. Like one of these little girls was 6 years old, and it was 9 days since the earthquake had happened when we found her, and her skull was open, and she should not have survived. And we were able to get her airlifted to the hospital. And again, we're like, I don't have any idea how we're going to pay for this, but it's the next right step. And so so we have to get her medical care. And we ended up getting her to the hospital that had the best neurosurgeon in the country, which is probably the only neurosurgeon in the country. There's very few specialties right now. But at least during the earthquake response, there was some medical professionals available. And there was also some USAID money available that had been provided to the hospital that ended up covering all of her medical expenses. And in the process of doing the testing to see what brain damage she might have, they discovered she has a brain tumor. And the brain tumor protected her brain from the impact of the wall that fell on her. And the wall falling on her exposed the brain tumor that they wouldn't have known was there if she hadn't been in this disaster. And then the surgery ended up covering both. And so there were so many points along the way, and I have like so many stories like this where it is just miraculous. Some of the things that we have encountered or been part of or been witness to. And it's so much of it been, a willingness to respond, a determination to find solutions and to not take no for an answer. And that's part of, that grit has part of been why it's been possible to even work at all in Haiti, because since then, our students have represented the country internationally in Singapore and Athens, and even getting them out of the country has been such a feat that really should not be possible. And the doors have opened for us at just the right times. And so, we feel like this has been teaching us as much as it's been, providing education for the students in the communities. But it's really been amazing to see how much this has brought the community together, because we knew this would have a big impact on the students we're working with. We knew this would open doors for their future, but we didn't really, at least I didn't really take into account how much of an impact it would have in the community, especially when there's nothing positive happening anywhere. And it feels like everything is disaster and devastation. To see these students thriving in the midst of that gives so many people, even beyond the country and the location that they're in, gives them hope for the future. And that's really helped rally the community and been beautiful to witness.
Well, even being able to travel to Athens and to Singapore, and then to come back and tell their friends and their family what they've seen, I'm sure that is an education that is life-changing. I think about my first trips overseas internationally and just the life experience that provides. And really, I mean, all of my overseas trips, right? I mean, even when you're on your 100th, it still is something to be learned and to grow from. So I think that has had probably a lot of education for them as well that they would never be able to receive otherwise.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a huge proponent for travel in general because I think that it gives you so much perspective and it breaks down stereotypes, and it opens the world to you.
Yeah.
But this has been especially impactful because the way that the competition is structured is very much in line with the vision we have for leadership, and they're trying to, develop some of the future leaders for the world. And part of the way that you do that is through knowing people from other places. And so you basically have the whole world together. It's basically the Olympics of robotics. There's 194 teams from around the world. And these teams cannot win on their own. They have to collaborate with other teams in every round of the robotics competition. And that creates a combined score. And so you're compelled to strategize together and to, help each other and to suggest ways that your robot could maybe operate better. And it encourages the kids to talk amongst themselves. And I have worked with an international peacekeeper named Porg O'Malley, who was involved with helping establish some of the North Ireland Peace Treaty. And he worked with Nelson Mandela. And he told me that the real thing that breaks down barriers is people knowing their neighbors, knowing each other. And that makes all the difference in actually building alliances, building bridges, building the future. And so to see these students from countries that are actively at war with each other, Russia and Ukraine working together, and Palestine and Israel kids working together, is just, it gives me so much hope that, maybe what we're seeing right now isn't going to be forever. Like maybe there can be leaders down the road that can find ways to work together and to not constantly tear each other down and be at odds, but to find solutions. And so, it's bigger than just the travel. It's the exposure and the fact that they now have friends from all over the world, and they have, that experience to help motivate them to do more with what's in front of them. And they really have done that.
That's awesome. So how do you expand from this work that is concentrated in Haiti to now include Uganda and Tanzania?
That, again, I think I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And I mean, definitely didn't. But I'm
sensing a theme.
Yeah, I don't know, glutton for punishment, I guess. But
it's working, and that's
it's working,
key.
And it's beautiful, and it's chaotic and messy, but it's also giving a lot of insight into, the lives of people in different places and making connections across borders. And it's just, even between our teams, seeing, I actually was just in Haiti the week before last. And the fact that they kept talking about wanting to meet the kids in Uganda and work with them and do a student exchange, and just really having that support has been really neat to see. But it was through social media, really. There was some people I was connected with that were working with kids in Uganda and requested for us to expand the education program, what we were doing in Uganda. And I really loved, what they were doing, and just kind of had developed a relationship over the past year and a half or so, just on my own, before kind of thinking about engaging the organization. But in that period of time, realized that these kids didn't have a safe place to live. And in order to help support their education, we needed to solve that first. And so initially it sounded like a super simple thing. It's going to be a small budget, and, we'll get something figured out. And then I ended up going to Uganda, and I had bought a piece of land sight unseen, just a plot of land in Uganda, before going there. And then I get there and I'm like, oh, this is never going to work. It's way too small. We already have all these children that we're supporting and they're never going to fit in here. And so just because they're used to surviving and making it work doesn't mean that that is a good long-term solution.
Right.
And so we went back to the drawing board and we decided to look for a different piece of land. And we bought a 3.5 acre, almost 4 acre farm. We're starting a sustainable farm, and we have a house we're building there, and it's only half built. It's a work in progress, but we have a well, we have power connected, and we had a team come out last summer to help build the walls. And it's just been really beautiful to see the community come together and help support this endeavor that, it's a moving target, and it's amazing even in a developing country where a dollar goes a long way when you have 36 children that you're supporting, all of their education of food and transportation and clothing. It does add up. So still working to try to get more of that long-term, the ongoing funds covered. But we've had a lot of support come in for the build and for the work we're doing there. And that's been so encouraging to have that vote of encouragement and support for everything we're building. And then same with Tanzania. I had someone in my network that was working there and had asked me if I would help to support a project that was helping create livelihood support. And I said, yeah, sounds amazing. Send me a proposal. And it was like a $20,000 project. And I was like, love it. Don't have the funding for it. Can you come up with something else? And at the same time, someone sent in funding that was earmarked specifically for the type of proposal they had sent me. And so it ended up kind of expanding into Tanzania. And now we have a tailoring program there. We're teaching girls to sew, helping them start businesses. And they're also giving back to the community by making uniforms for the local schools with their final project. Yeah. And so that's been really neat to see. We drilled a well there this year in a Maasai village, and the uniforms that we made were for that same school. And so we visited, and the kids sang and in Maasai, and it was just so beautiful and moving to see. It was just 60 of the 700 kids there that all need uniforms. But we had the teachers choose the ones that were most in need. And it's hard. It's hard for me to be there. It's hard for me to not want to do more. And I'm trying to stay focused on this is what we can do right now. And in order for this to be successful and to really support these children the best we can't expand beyond that. But when you're faced with it, on a day-to-day basis, and every day I'm talking to, all 3 countries and problem solving things. And there's always something coming up. We're now taking care of 3 young moms and their babies and different medical issues that come up that we're also helping support. But yeah, the last time I was there, 3 people offered me their baby when I was in the market. And they just know or have this confidence that I will educate their child and that their child will not want for food. And maybe that someday that child will come back and help support their family. And it's just hard for me to see people having to make those kinds of decisions or feel like they're in a desperate place that would even come to mind. And so we're doing the best we can to meet the needs that are in front of us. And the kids are thriving. And so many of them, both in Haiti and Uganda, have asked, what do I have to study to come back and work for you? And, I really feel like that, who better could you have work for you than someone who's come up and through the program and been supported by the program. And so I've told them, you can study anything you want because we have so many needs and we're committed to supporting you as long as you want to go to school. And so we have kids that want to be doctors and teachers and engineers. And so we'll see where they go. And it's really been an evolution where I could not have predicted where it is now, but we're doing the best we can to provide for the needs that are in front of us. And we're also looking to create long-term sustainability so that we're not completely dependent on donor funds forever. We started a farm and in both Tanzania and Uganda, something small just for the house in Uganda. And looking at other ways that we can, build in some income, but it's slow. And so, I feel like I want to be so much farther ahead and have the house built already and have the kids move in. But I have to stop and reflect that, that we have done a lot in 4 years, and there's still so much that we're building. But I learned so much from these kids. Like when I was there last, the kids wanted to know about the house we're building and what it's going to look like. And they're most excited about the dining room because they've never had tables and chairs.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that's just a really exciting prospect to be able to do your homework and eat at a table. They asked how many kids would be able to fit in this house. And I said 60, which is double what we currently have. And they said, well, can we add more kids right away? And I said, well, no, because we don't have the funding right away and, have to phase that in. And they said, please, we know so many kids that need a place to live. Can we please expand? And so many times we think of things from a selfish perspective of, if I share this, I will have less. And they totally do not have that perspective. It's it's very, everything's been hand to mouth. And so they're very much like, this may not be here tomorrow, but I know someone who needs this. And if I can share with them, I know what it's like to not have a place to sleep at night. And my classmate doesn't have a place to sleep at night. And so naturally I would want them to be able to come and experience that as well. And so it's just been a beautiful shift in perspective and something that they're just constantly, sharing with me. And so I always feel like I'm gaining so much and wanting to do more and humbled at the same time. So, yeah.
So much of what you have done, Lauren, is kind of balancing this line between humanitarian and capitalism. Do you see that is a model going forward that is viable for more types of organizations, or is that just something that seems to work in your situation and, there's not a whole lot of future for it?
Well, I don't feel like we've exactly built a viable model of how we've grown things and expanded, because so much of it has been purely passion. We care about this, and people believe in me and they're willing to support it, and they believe in the work we're doing, and they're moved by the stories we share and things like that. I think that can be kind of challenging to structure it that way. It has worked for us, and we're working towards, kind of expanding our donor base and expanding our funding sources, and just, having more brand recognition rather than just have people that our audience connects with and believes in. But I definitely think that what it's communicated to me is that people care and they do want to support this kind of work. And we wouldn't have even done anything in Uganda if that hadn't been in place before all of this happened. And the support it keeps coming in. And we haven't really done a lot of direct asks. It's been very difficult for me to juggle everything. And so there's been a couple fundraisers we've done and a couple, things, but it's been mostly people that just really care and are impressed to give. And the funding has come in little by little. And it's been a little challenging to work that way because we can't really create a timeline of this is when we're planning to finish this build. And this is when we're, going to have their education funded and advance to the next stage. And then in the meantime, emergencies come up and, there's some kid ends up in the hospital and there's the car breaks down and, different things. But it's also been a beautiful journey to be part of something that operates that way, because you're forced to walk by faith and to step into the next right thing and to not feel like you have to have it all figured out ahead of time. I think we're so used to expecting that, and to stepping into something blindly is not something that I think most people would ever do, but has also been the reason why we've been able to do some of the things. And so it's not something that you could necessarily replicate, but also something that if you're willing, you couldn't replicate it easily. But if you're willing to not have all the answers from the outset, it can definitely lead you places that you didn't expect you'd end up.
Wow. Well, this has been amazing. I've loved hearing about all these stories, so inspiring. We end every interview by asking some questions. Now, these were inspired by James Lipton, host of Inside the Actors Studio, and it is based on the Proust questionnaire. So are you ready for these questions, Lauren? We're going to ask them rapid fire.
Yes.
You ready? You ready to answer them?
Yes.
All right. Number one, what motivates you?
I am motivated by possibility, by the belief that things can change and evolve and be reimagined. I think I'm kind of drawn to problems and problem solving, and seeing the connections of things that could change. And so, yeah, I'm motivated by the possibility and the unknown, and what can be something bigger and better. What
discourages you?
I'm very discouraged by injustice. I think it's something we see all around us every day, and even more so with the news and social media, and it's just kind of in front of you all the time, and it weighs heavy on me. And I want so much for a more just and compassionate world. And I know I can't fix everything, but I believe that we're capable of better. And I think that is something that keeps me going when things feel really heavy.
One word that describes you at your best?
I would say energized. I think that when I feel rested and centered and my purpose is in focus, that I have energy, and that's when I'm most creative. And I thrive when everything is connecting, and that I'm plugged into work and vision that really matters.
One word that describes you at your worst?
I think stuck would be the word that I feel describes me at my worst, because when I'm stuck, I feel tired and disconnected and non-creative, and I lack clarity, and everything can feel really overwhelming. And so much of that is a frame of mind, or a kind of a place we're at emotionally and mentally, but also it can come from burnout. And, sometimes we spread ourselves too thin, and so I get stuck at times.
Other than family or work, what gives you purpose?
Well, I think, as you heard me say most of this last hour, service is really what gives me purpose. Not as an act, but as a way of living and being. And I believe in contributing to creating safe spaces, and for helping lift people up. And it's something that definitely gives me a lot of purpose.
What guilty pleasure brings you joy?
I would say thrifting, because it's something that is like a treasure hunt, and you never know what you're going to find. And it's giving new life to things that have been passed over, and reimagining how something can be used. And yeah, it's the adventure of it, I guess.
How do you celebrate a win?
I think I'm not very good at celebrating wins. I think I often at times have to remind myself to stop and reflect and acknowledge how far we've come. And so I think that maybe the one thing that I do is I allow myself to rest a little bit when there's a win, and to kind of reset and acknowledge it.
How do you bounce back after a loss?
I think, and loss is hard. And if it's something that I've really poured my heart into, I have to pause and reset and reflect. And I think one of the ways that I really feel recentered is when I clean things and reorganize things, and just feel like in my physical presence, if I can make things feel more beautiful or more welcoming, then it helps reset and feel like I can tackle the next thing.
Who was the last person you expressed gratitude towards?
I have a few people in my life who really speak into my life and really know me well. And one of them is someone who, I feel like is able to say things that I overlook or don't necessarily know about myself, or are able to reframe things in a way that makes sense for me. And so recently I was able to share my gratitude for the way that they're always showing up in my life and the role that they've played in the things that I'm now doing. And so I think I live in a state of gratitude all the time. I'm very grateful for, everything that I have and the things that I've been able to be part of, and things I'm learning every day from the kids that I work with. And, even the kids in Uganda, there's a lot that I've learned about gratitude from them because they kneel every time they thank me for something or anyone for something. And so it's not just the words, it's like your whole self in it. And there's a humility to it, and it's just really beautiful. And so, yeah, I think I'm learning things all the time, but I'm grateful for so many things. But yeah, people in my life who've been able to speak into my life. It's the last.
And finally, if you could go back in time, what would you tell 25-year-old Lauren?
Oh, so many things, I'm sure. But to distill it to just one thing, I think I would say to stay curious, to be curious, to ask questions, because I think that curiosity keeps us soft enough to grow and wise enough to change. And it leads to clarity and purpose and communication and healing and growth. And that's something that I'm still on that journey of like navigating. And I think, if we had a whole lifetime, we still could keep in another lifetime, we'd still be learning about ourselves and others, but asking those questions earlier, getting to those answers earlier. And it's not because asking questions brings you all the answers, but it brings you to more of the right questions. And that brings you to a place where you're a better version of yourself and you're able to show up better for the people around you. And yeah, we're always becoming. And the more we can participate in that process intentionally, the better we can show up for ourselves and our families.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren, for being here. I loved this conversation. And we're going to put in the show notes all of the ways that you can connect with Lauren, all of the ways that you can find out more about the organizations that she's working with, and even links for how you can support some of these programs that she is involved in. Again, thank you so much for looking at those and considering that. But Lauren, I just want to say again, thank you so much for being here and sharing part of your story with the listeners.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate the work that you're doing and the way that you're reframing productivity is not just the grind, but as something that we're working towards creating more by resting more and by prioritizing the things that are important and making space for that. And I don't think we hear enough of that in our society. And so I appreciate the work you're doing in that space. And I appreciate this conversation. It's been fun.
Thank you. And that is the show for today. Thank you so much for being here. Again, check out the show notes. You'll have all of the links to Lauren and her organizations. Thank you for following, subscribing, liking the podcast so you can hear all of the next episodes that are coming out. We've got another great interview coming up for you. Again, when you subscribe, when you like, when you follow, those will just come automatically into your favorite podcast platform. You can find it on YouTube as well. But that is why you want to subscribe and like. If you liked the show, if you liked what Lauren was talking about and the stories that she was telling, you want to hear more of those, go ahead and rate the show. You can do it just for Lauren. It won't be a rating for me. It'll just be for Lauren if you want to do that today. But we love seeing 5 stars, and that just lets more people know that this is a show worth checking out, and hopefully they can benefit from it as well. We're on all of the major social media platforms as well: Instagram, Facebook, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube. I just joined Substack, so check it out there. And a lot of great productivity tips and motivation for you to follow your goals. Again, that's what this is all about. As I said at the beginning, my goal with this is to help you dream big, plan smart, and live fully. And that's what we are trying to do and what we're all about. So thank you again. We will see you next time. Take care. Before I sign off, close your eyes for a minute, unless you're driving. But close your eyes and imagine this. It's Friday. You're excited for the weekend. TGIF, right? You're wrapping up the work week, getting ready to leave the office. But as you're walking out the door, you start to reflect on the week and you say, what did I even accomplish this week? It's a frustrating feeling and a horrible way to start your weekend. You know that you've worked hard all week, but you have little or nothing to show for it. If you've ever had these feelings at the end of your week, I have a special offer for you to help you on your productivity journey. I talk about it all the time. Being intentional with your time is one of the biggest parts of productivity. And one of the best ways you can be intentional is to plan your week. Planning your week provides clarity on your priorities. It eliminates confusion about what needs to be done, and it sets you on a path for success. Now, I've developed the perfect tool to help you plan your week. I call it my Sunday strategy, and I want to give you my Sunday strategy worksheet and guide absolutely free when you sign up for my weekly newsletter. The guide offers clear strategies for using the principles of holistic productivity to plan your week. You'll have a mindset shift away from the toxic aspects of productivity, and you'll get step-by-step directions for using the Sunday strategy worksheet. With my Sunday strategy, you only need 15 minutes each Sunday to plan out your entire week. It'll let you identify major projects and tasks that are coming up, assign those projects to specific days, and best of all, there are different sections for each area of your life: professional, personal, and purpose-driven, so you can reach all of your goals. My Sunday strategy worksheet also includes a weekly habit tracker to keep you focused on the habits that you want to develop. So if you want to avoid those Friday feelings of frustration and despair, you need my Sunday strategy worksheet. It's the perfect planning tool to help you build the winning strategy for your week. It's a resource you can come back to each day to keep you focused on reaching your goals, and it's an accountability tool to help you track your progress. Basically, it can help you have the most productive week ever. Like I said, it is completely free when you sign up for my weekly newsletter, which also features more strategies and tips to help you dream big, plan smart, and live fully. To get my Sunday strategy worksheet and guide, go to mysundaystrategy.com and sign up. That's mysundaystrategy.com. There will also be a link in the show notes, but again, mysundaystrategy.com. Look forward to having you back here for the next episode of the Holistic Productivity Podcast.